All right, this week, authorities in the US state of Nevada shockingly served a search warrant in connection to the killing of rapper Tupac Shakur. The 25-year-old, who was considered one of the most prolific figures in hip-hop and media, was killed in a drive-by shooting nearly 3 decades ago.
Development came as a surprise to everyone, including his family. For more on it, we're joined by journalist from Slate, Joel Anderson from San Francisco. Joel, thanks for joining us. You've covered the murder of Tupac and the feud he had with Biggie Smalls quite extensively over the years. Were you surprised by this news, by this development in the investigation?
Not necessarily. There's been a lot of renewed interest in Tupac, both in part because this year is being celebrated here in America as the 50th anniversary of the founding of hip hop. And because there was recently like a documentary about him and his mother, Afeni Shakur. Also, not so long ago, within the last month, he was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So there's a lot of interest and renewed interest in Tupac right now. And, you know, I'll even say 4 years ago, when we were working on the 3rd season of the Slow Burn podcast about the murders of Biggie and Tupac, we called the Vegas police for information, and they said they couldn't respond because it was an active and ongoing investigation. So I didn't know an arrest warrant was in the offing, but that was an interesting response, to say the least.
Well, yeah, so this footage of the raid that surfaced overnight revealing a SWAT team at the premises, they're taking laptops, they're taking hard drives, they're taking books. I mean, you're so involved with this. You've been researching this case so much. Do you have any idea what they might be looking for?
Well, I mean, the person at the center of this investigation here is a guy named Dwayne Keith Davis, known as Keefy D. He's a 60-year-old former drug dealer and Southside Crip who has been telling everyone he possibly can over the last 20 years or so that he was involved in Tupac's shooting death.
Right.
And he recently did another interview to that effect a couple months ago that made some news domestically here. So it's not a surprise that after all this time talking about, hey, man, I was in the car when Tupac got shot. I was there. I know, who shot him. It's not a surprise that eventually the authorities were like, hey, maybe we should look into this.
Seems more of a surprise that it's taken this long to look into it.
Absolutely.
Do you have any suspicions then around who it was who pulled the trigger?
Well, I mean, I think for people that have been covering this case for the last 25 years or so, there's not a lot of mystery around it. Dwayne Keith Davis and Keefy D, as I mentioned earlier, his nephew was a guy named Orlando Anderson. He's another Southside Crip, and he's the man who hours before Tupac's shooting got into a fight with Tupac and Tupac's entourage in a Vegas casino. And not long after that, Tupac gets killed. So it makes a lot of sense. He's always been the primary suspect. The thing is that Orlando Anderson, within a couple of years after Tupac's murder, got killed himself in a gang-related attack in L.A. So the primary suspect has been dead for, 25 years at this point. So that we may not ever get justice in that way, but at least the people connected to it, there's still a possibility, a slim chance that something might happen there.
You and your Slow Burn podcast, it's a really great listen to, and I really enjoy all the episodes of it. But, there's this fascination around the deaths of Tupac and Biggie, the other hip-hop artist who was so closely aligned with Tupac at that time, and their deaths were so closely, entwined as well. What is the fascination ongoing for these two artists, especially Tupac now, all these years on?
Well, I mean, I think that there have been a lot of conspiracy theories that have flourished in the wake of the years since they passed. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, I've seen Tupac in Chile," or somewhere in the Caribbean, and the same with Biggie. Like, there's this fascination. So there's been like a lot of resources and human law enforcement hours chasing these like claims that have created a lot of doubt and misdirection that have sort of mucked up the investigation. So the upside to it, though, has been it's generated a lot of interest and a lot of money for people that are behind Tupac's music and artistry. So it's made a lot of money for people. And I also think another piece of the conspiracy theories is that people want to think that there's something greater, more important behind the deaths of these two insanely talented dudes, right? They don't want to think that it comes down to gang retaliation, but unfortunately, that seems like the most likely motive here.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's a subject of great fascination for a lot of people, isn't it, Joel? We appreciate your insights on the subject this morning.
Thanks,
Thank you
Joel,
for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
See you soon.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my God, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports, and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
that never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?